Hello, everyone. Welcome to LitChats. My name is Amber Peterson, and I'm the Chief Program Officer for LitWorld. LitWorld partners with amazing community-based organizations all around the world to strengthen kids and communities through the power of story. In 2010, LitWorld began World Read Aloud Day, an opportunity to celebrate the phenomenal power of reading aloud and oral storytelling. Since then, World Read Aloud Day has become a global movement, engaging millions of readers, writers, and listeners each year from communities all around the world. World Read Aloud Day is always the first Wednesday of February. This year, it is February 4th, which means it's always a great way to kick off Black History Month. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Amber Bogan, the founder and principal author of Little Bogan Books, who is coincidentally the perfect person to help us to prepare for both World Read Aloud Day and Black History Month. Welcome, Amber. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Hello. Thank you for having me.
First, I just have to say, you are the second Amber that I have interviewed for World Read Aloud Day. It is like
a popular name.
You know, all the Ambers. Yes. But thank you so much for speaking with me today. I have got to say, I am so inspired by you. Not only do you write the books that you want to put into the world, but you also started your own publishing house to help other authors put their stories into the world as well. What inspired you to start Little Bogan Books, and how did your own experiences shape the stories you wanted to see in the world for children?
Oh, gosh. What an awesome question. So let me first just say, I think my experience as a Black woman, a mother, and a reader really was the crux that kind of shaped my experience and my desire to become a children's book author and to your point, help other authors bring their stories into the world. I was fortunate enough to be raised by parents and a community, a village, if you will, that really poured into me and helped me understand the joy of reading, the importance of reading. And when my husband and I were expecting, we of course wanted to build our children bookshelves that made them feel loved and seen and empowered. And so when I hit a brick wall, right, I decided that I wanted to become a part of the solution. And so Little Bogan Books, we create stories that say your life and your lived experiences are worthy of a book. And I'm very proud of that.
I love that. I feel like that's so important. And I was blessed with an upbringing that was kind of similar. I know my mom, back in the 1900s when I was a child, my mom sought to build a similar type of access for me. And it's because of folks like you that make it so much easier to do that today. So thank you for that incredible work. LitWorld's work is all built around what we call the 7 strengths. And one of those strengths is confidence, the belief that your voice and your story and your perspective matters. And when you think about your own journey as a writer, what helped you find the confidence to tell your story? And how do we help young people believe that their voices are worth sharing too?
Ooh. I think so. First and foremost, just kind of letting passion lead the way. So I talked about how I wanted to be a part of a solution, right? So I call myself, and this is probably not a real word, but I'm a self-proclaimed solutionist, right? And so I find myself kind of navigating those waters no matter what the situation is, right? And so this was just another example of me finding myself up against a wall or coming up against a barrier and then wanting to find a solution for it. And so the passion that I had behind wanting to be a part of the solution was what I led with, right? I let that passion lead the way. And then I think secondly, my confidence really came when I decided that I didn't need anyone's permission to be a part of that solution, right? And so in the world of independent imprints or independent children's book authors or publishers, right? It's completely different from what the greater world understands to be the traditional publishing space. And so that was a journey, right? Understanding that I didn't necessarily need that permission of the traditional publishing world to be a part of the solution. And so my confidence came when I made that decision and then decided to do something about it. And so I went first to what I like to call Google University or YouTube University, right? To understand the landscape. And so I kind of put together my passion, right, with my business expertise and my creativity, and kind of those three things kind of came together to help me build what is now Little Bogan Books and impact little readers, all around the world.
I love that. And I love what you're saying about kind of not waiting for permission. And I think that's so important for us to share with young people. Is stop waiting for that permission. Just do the thing. And we do have so many resources like Google and YouTube University.
Everything that you need is already within you, right? And in today's world, like you said, there are so many resources. And so once you kind of make a decision that there's something that you feel is important that you want to put out into the world, once you take that first step, the world is your oyster.
I love that. But follow your passion. I love that. Absolutely. One thing that I love about your work is that you are all about joy. At Lit World, we talk about joy all the time as well. Joy is transformational. It's infectious. And we know how important the celebration of it is. So I know that you intentionally center Black joy in your work. Why is it so important for children, and I'll say especially Black children, to see stories that celebrate joy, imagination, and everyday beauty?
Oh, you are so right. Joy is transformational. And I think we have to be really intentional about highlighting that joy. And that's not to say that there isn't space, because there absolutely is space and there absolutely is a need for stories that showcase or highlight or tell hard truths, right?
Absolutely.
That is very important. That's needed. There's space for that. And so one doesn't negate the other, right? But the stories that tell those hard truths, it doesn't exemplify the totality of the Black experience. And so for me, I want to focus on joy. There's already, when we think about statistically, the limited number of children's books that feature Black or brown main characters, of all the books published in the United States, that there's already such a limited amount of those books. And then of those books, you have to think about those that highlight or share those hard truths, which again, there's space and a need for that. And so, I think it's important, again, to be intentional about highlighting joy. I think there's also a point to be made about emotional safety, especially in today's times. I think understanding those hard truths and understanding the parts of history that aren't necessarily easily digested, right? Especially for young readers, it's equally as important to showcase them living everyday lives and the joy of their everyday experiences, from school to family, to friends, showcasing their creativity. I think it's equally as important. And so at Little Bogan Books, that's just something that we want to be intentional about in every way, shape, and form.
I love it. And you're so right. I think there's, that those hardships, those hard truths are part of our legacy as Black people, but also so is joy. And so are those stories of triumph, of happiness. Like, that's all part of our history. And I think we absolutely need more of a spotlight on those, because I think we do overwhelmingly get the other type of story. So I love that you focus on joy, and that you have such an incredible collection of stories that do that. Speaking about kind of that collection of stories, World Read Aloud Day is, of course, all about sharing stories out loud. What role does the read aloud have in helping children to feel proud of their stories and excited to share them with others?
Reading aloud, I think it has a lot to do with building confidence for young readers. I think it helps them transition from not just a reader, but also a storyteller, right? So you can help instill confidence in them through the confidence that you exude when you are reading aloud, right? So you can showcase the different dynamics of the characters or the mood or the scenery, right? You can help evoke different emotion. And I think it really just kind of brings it from just a story to a more communal, engaging experience, making it more interactive. And so I think you really, you sort of multiply the impact when you're not just reading the story, alone or independently, but you kind of bring it into a full-blown experience when you read aloud. And I think, the joy and the excitement of the children is a perfect example of that. It's undeniable, quite honestly.
Oh, I mean, you're spot on. Absolutely. I think we talk a lot, around World Read Aloud Day about some of the academic benefits of reading aloud, which, of course are there. I think it's a great way to build vocabulary and help kids, model reading for young people. But I think we talk just as much about that emotional piece as well, that ability to bring communities together, that shared narrative that people get to tap into. And so, sharing stories is part of a age-old tradition, not even just like of humans. We've done that from the beginning of time, shared stories together. And so reading aloud is another way of practicing that. And I totally agree with everything that you just said. You're an author, you're a publisher, you're also an educator. And so now, speaking as an educator, what are a few simple steps that young people can take right now to begin seeing themselves as authors of their own stories?
First and foremost, I agree with the title of educator, right? So although I'm not a formal educator, I think we all should own the role of educator, right? Because we educate in some way, shape, or form, whether formally, informally, whether intentionally or not intentionally. So I love that you bring up that title of and the honor of being an educator in our own individual ways. And so to that, I would say, first and foremost, to remind our little ones, our little readers, that your story doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours, right? So the ideas that are planted within you, they deserve to see the light. And so if you don't allow the need for perfection to hinder that, then you allow yourself the space and opportunity to share your ideas with the world, and you never know who you can impact with those. And so just remembering that they don't have to be perfect, they just have to be yours. And that's unique in its own way, shape, or form. And then secondly, I think something else that I tend to lean into is the fact that stories don't have to be just in written form. And so whatever mode of storytelling feels most comfortable for the little ones in your life, I think encouraging them to lean into that is also another powerful way to, encourage them. So for example, some students may love to use their hands and draw out a story, right? And so they may use their voice to then share with you what the illustrations that they've created depict in the story that it tells, or that may look like poetry, that may look like theater. And so in its own way, all of those are ways and opportunities to share stories and have a shared experience. And so I think encouraging the little ones in our lives to lean into whatever mode they feel most connected with is how we kind of get the best of both worlds.
I love that multimodal acceptance.
Yeah, I love that multimodal. Yes, you got it.
And yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. And I love what you're saying about just, again, embracing that learning process that comes with sharing your stories. Nobody's perfect the first time they come out. And there's so much beauty in the process of refining your voice, of refining your story, of discovering what's different about your story when you first put it out versus later on. So I love that, letting go of perfection as well. um, Thank you so much for joining me today for this Lit Chat. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to speak with you. If you are tuning in, please head over to littleboganbooks.com to check out Amber's incredible work. She's also Little Bogan Books on all social platforms. Before we go, can you let us know how you'll be celebrating World Read Aloud Day?
Oh, World Read Aloud Day is always a fun experience. I'm going to bring it internally to my home by, of course, doing the most obvious thing, which is reading books aloud.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always a fun experience. I'm really intentional about letting my children pick their own books. And so we even go as far as utilizing the end pages as opportunities to further engage and give them opportunities to really just connect with what they're reading. And so in addition to that, I think the key thing is showing up, right? And so just showing up in spaces where children already feel safe, seen, and celebrated, and showing them what it looks like to use your voice and have those shared experiences. So I'm looking forward to showing up in those spaces within my community. And then who knows, maybe there may be an opportunity to show up online as well and kind of just, spread that impact even further.
Oh, I love it. I feel like so many nuggets of information just dropped that last about how to read aloud, how to engage people around the read aloud. So thank you for that. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, anybody who's tuning in. Please check out worldreadaloudday.org for incredible resources to celebrate on February 4th, 2026 and beyond. Sign up to become a RAD advocate and help us to amplify the importance of this day and this important act. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram for activities, celebration resources, and more. Thank you so much, and happy countdown to World Read Aloud Day, everyone.